So autumn is advancing. A lot of the leaves have come off the trees and some of the trees are completely bare. Winter is definitely on its way. Well, winter is a challenging time for wildlife. So when you're a wild gardener, this time of year is all about what can you do to help wildlife get through the winter. Bore da pawb. Good morning, everybody. Croeso, welcome to my Wild Welsh Garden. This is where I'm wilding my garden. So I'm trying to garden in a way which is more in keeping with a wild ecosystem, a natural ecosystem, and therefore better for wildlife. And I'm learning as I go, and I'm sharing what I'm doing and what I'm learning with anybody else who would like to do the same or is really worried about this nature crisis that we find ourselves in and would like to do something to help. Well, we've had a really benign, mild spell of weather for over 2 weeks now, but it's forecast to change at the weekend, and we've got high winds and I think snow forecast for next week, and of course lots of rain. So I thought I would take advantage of this nice, still quite mild day for the middle of November and take you on a November tour of my Wild Welsh Garden. I thought we'd start at the front of the house and show you this erigeron, which has just loved being left alone by the weed killer. And then back through the side gate, and I've got some wood here that I wanted to talk about really. Some of these, the lighter ones, are the hazel logs that we pollarded from a hazel tree that I have over the road. In fact, this darker one is too, but it's just been lying on the ground over the road. And then this green one that's covered in moss and lichens I picked up from the woods yesterday. And I've thought of another little project for me to do in the winter. I'm going to make a feature of some standing deadwood. I've got lots of log piles and stick piles in all sorts of different places all around the garden. But the thing with that is it's all lying on the ground, and it's a great habitat for all sorts of invertebrates. But standing deadwood that gets dry is also a really good habitat for a different set of invertebrates. And I haven't really got any standing deadwood in the garden, and I thought I would have some, and I'm going to try and make a feature out of it. So not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet in one of the flower beds, but I'll put it in a video at some future date. I don't often show you this bit of the garden. It's just down the side of the polytunnel here, down the side of the cottage. But there's this lovely fuchsia, which is just beautiful at the moment. And the pyrus here with lots of flower buds ready for next year. And my spindle trees. But I have to say the birds haven't exactly been eating many of the seeds. Some of them have been eaten, but not many. I think they prefer the seeds that are on the bird table. Lovely rosemary flowering there. And then up to the rest of the garden. So up the steps. And this geranium Roseanne that I cut right back a couple of months ago is actually flowering in the end. And then to the right is the lawn. But this is some berries that the birds have really loved. This is the Rowan that had yellow berries, and I say had because they have eaten every single one, every scrap. I think it was the blackbirds. I saw one sort of jumping up and eating one. The thing is that the branches aren't big enough for a blackbird to perch on, so he had to sort of hover a little bit like a huge hummingbird. Yeah, so that he must have got a taste for them, and they all went in a day. And there's this very untidy flower bed, which I'm just going to leave for the wildlife to overwinter in. I've tidied up some of the stems that had fallen over and put them in the bug snug. And you can also see that there's some bare soil there, because I have been in some of the beds removing the wild strawberry. So I've got some bare soil, but that's okay, because I've learnt from Nep that bare soil is very important. It's yet another habitat, and it also gives opportunity for self-seeding plants to self-seed and for the seeds to germinate. Lots more untidy flower beds, but I have been doing quite a lot of not weeding but grazing, and I've been selectively grazing out the wild strawberries and the willow herbs, and I've had pretty much a whole bin full, a whole compost bin full I've taken out from round here. And then we go through the rose arch with these fabulous rose hips on one side, and that little rose is still flowering on the other. And this is the film I took this morning when the rose hips were in the sunshine. And we'll just say hi to Peter and Paul, my little gnomes that are sitting on the stones here. Hi guys. So through into the secret garden. And the crocus bulbs are starting to shoot already. I think you can see the little green shoots there. Oh, promise of spring already. But look what a pesky bird has been doing to my seed trays. Oh, I've been pecking around in them all. I don't know. These birds, you know, you try and feed them and look after them, and then what do? They reward you by trashing your seed trays. These are all wildflower seeds that I've collected myself and sown myself. And then I think, well, you know, this is what would happen in a natural ecosystem. The seeds would get disturbed and pecked and dug up. So, you know, you make your bed, you lie in it. And then they toss the label on the floor as well. So, yeah, one of those is ladies' bed straw. I don't know which one. Look at that. Field scabious, that was. Then there's one of the places that I'm hanging the dead stems in. So the habitat is still here in the garden, it's just relocated to a different place. And then here we are at the pond, what I call the pond bed. And it does get a bit boring really, but Geranium Roseanne is still flowering. And the cherry tree has lost nearly all its leaves, and they'll probably all come down next week if we have these high winds that are forecast. But I did take a film a couple of days ago when it had more leaves and the sun was just touching it. The sun was just coming over the mountain. It was first thing in the morning and it just looked magical. And they make this really colourful carpet of leaves on the ground. And I'm just going to leave them and I'm not going to touch them. And they will provide really valuable habitat for invertebrates over the winter. And the invertebrates will provide food for the larger animals and for the birds. And then this is the old pond, because this has been here for about 5 years. And I do take the leaves out of the pond. I've got a child's fishing net attached to a bamboo cane, and I can reach all the way to the other side of the pond. And we'll just say hi to Ivy, the wood sprite, who's sitting next to the pond. And this is the wilder part of the garden. This is my native hedge, which I'm allowing to grow thicker and taller and wilder. And the birds just love perching in it and hiding in it, and yeah. I think it's increased the number of birds that have come into the garden very much. And over there are some raspberries. There's autumn raspberries and summer raspberries. And down here is a rhubarb patch. And I'm going to make the hedge even thicker here. There's a little, I think it's a willow tree that's seeded itself there already. And next to it, I'm going to plant one of the little spindle trees and the alder buckthorn tree that are both down by the bird table. And then next to the pond here, behind this evening primrose, is a hibernaculum that I made last winter. And what I did was I dug a hole about 1 metre deep, I think it was, and I filled it with all sorts of bits of wood and crocks and slates and bricks, anything that a creature can hide under, basically. And then there are 4 pipes that lead to the bottom of the hibernaculum. So any little creature, like a lizard or an amphibian, can go down there and find somewhere nice and sheltered to spend the winter and hibernate. And I wondered what to do with the top of it, and in the end I just left it because the sparrows like to dust bathe on it, and it's become colonised by all these self-seeders. There's evening primrose here and foxglove and ragwort. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. And now the sun's come out. It's really quite warm in the sunshine. Yes, I've not been sitting on that chair very much, have I? Covered in leaves. The creepers all bare now. All the leaves have come off the creepers. And there's no autumn raspberries left on the raspberries. And then these are my vegetable patches. I think everybody's had a really bad year for vegetables, but yeah, it's been terrible. But the other thing is that I've had loads and loads of caterpillars eating my brassicas, and I did wonder whether they would recover, but they actually have. My perennial kale was absolutely eaten to blazes. It was every single leaf. But now it's produced lots of these new green shoots. I've harvested lots already, and there's still a lot here. And I think this is also the best time of year for taking cuttings. I think I took them this time last year and they all did very well. So I'll try and remember to do that, take some cuttings as well. There's a purple sprouting broccoli, which seems to have recovered as well. So I might get some sprouts off that. And then behind it is the bug snug, which I've put some uprights in made out of buddleia stems. And I'm just piling any of the dead stems that have fallen over into here, because again, it relocates the habitat. They will stay dry, I think, for the winter, so dry enough for some creatures to hibernate in if they want. And yeah, makes another sort of feature in the garden. I did talk about it more in the last video. Since then, I think I've put another couple of buddleia stems in to sort of make it a bit more substantial, and I've added some more of the stems. And then we go down here to the lawn, the back way onto the lawn, through another bit of native hedging. There's blackthorn and hawthorn and guelder rose and dog rose. And I've put a metal arch in to try and make an arch, basically, make it easier for me to get through. Yes, it's much easier to get through here now. I've come round with my back to the sun so you can see it a bit better. Yeah, the birds love to perch in there. And again, I've been grazing here. I've been grazing out the wild strawberry. So this is the lawn from the other way, so I'm not filming into the sunshine with my summer house, which I actually use more at this time of year really than I do during the summer. So we'll just sit in here for a mow and see what's going on. And then this is my new pond that I made last winter, and the grassy area that I sowed this spring. And I'm just going to leave all this over the winter, because long grass is another really good habitat for all sorts of creatures to overwinter in and live in. And it's also the larval food plant of a lot of our native butterflies. And the Butterfly Trust have shown that those gardens with the most butterflies are the ones that have areas of long grass. So then we go down the steps to the woodshed, and there's a little geranium here. Very bravely still flowering. There's a lovely geranium flower down there as well. There's a pair of loppers there that I broke pruning the buddleia, so I have to put them on my Christmas list, a new pair of loppers. And there's the other area of grass that I sowed this spring, that side of, and all around the other side. And this is the polytunnel with some of my flowers, my wildflowers and other things to go out next year. There's red campion down there. These are actually Verbena bonariensis that I found around the place and potted them up in here. And then there's a mixture here of overwintering succulents and wildflowers mostly. That's Ragged Robin, which is flowering. How lovely is that? And then this is my little experiment, putting slug protection around brassicas. So some of them are just pristine. I think this is the 9-star perennial broccoli, this one. But then next door, that one's been eaten. And then this is the kale, and I had thought that the slugs had got over the protection, but now I can see it is actually a pesky caterpillar. But then next door here, the perennial cabbage looks lovely. Few holes. And then here are the ones that had no protection at all. So yeah, pretty conclusive, I think, that slug protection works to some extent, and no slug protection means that they just get completely eaten. Right, so we go back. And then we go down the slope, and we've been right round the garden. And I just wanted to show you these twigs that I picked up on my walk yesterday. Just lovely, lovely lichen. So thanks for joining me again in my Wild Welsh garden. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you'd like to continue to follow my journey, wilding my garden, and you want to see the next thrilling instalment of my exciting adventure, then I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Hwyl fawr!